Good evening, everyone. My name is Anjali Gangapasad, and I will be presenting on the topic misuse of information, and that is from week number 8. So, what we will learn from this presentation? Well, we will learn about the current trends, research findings, challenges, and ethical mitigations of information misuse. And that basically means the moral principles or standards that can reduce the downside of information misuse. Now, what is the misuse of information? Well, it's the deliberate and wrong use of information, according to Smith and Lee, with the specific aim to mislead, lead astray, or cause material harm. It's not a mistake or some typographical error. It's a planned twisting of truth with the intention for bad end result. Now, some other terms will derive under the topic of misuse of information, such as misinformation. Now, what is this? Well, in this case, the information is false but unintentional. And that basically means the information is not correct, but it's not created with the intent to deceive or cause harm. An example is sharing a fake health tip, believing it is helpful. Disinformation. Well, this is the case where information is false and made or shared willfully to mislead or cause harm, and can be used for political or financial gain in most cases. An example is making up a news story to steer an election in a specific direction. Malinformation. This is where the information is true, but there is intentional harm involved, right? It can be used to inflict harm on a person, organization, or country. An example would be publicly sharing a person's private emails or messages without their permission, with the intent to embarrass or ruin their reputation. Now, what is the information environment like in 2026? Well, when it comes to hyperconnectivity, we see that it's the worldwide spreading of ultra high speed internet, which has greatly reduced delays in communication, making it possible for wrong or manipulated content or disinformation to spread to millions of people almost instantly. Now, the rise of edge computing. Today, much of our data is processed directly on our personal devices instead of on central servers. And because of this shift, platforms have less control, making it more difficult for them to filter out or stop misleading information before it spreads. The spread of AI agents now. These are specialized software and they can now do the work on their own to go through and summarize and give us information. But if these agents receive bias or distorted data, they can unwillfully spread misinformation far and wide without anyone realizing it. Now, the cognitive overload issue. Although we have more access to data more than ever before, the full amount of it can really overwhelm us, making it easy for us to fall for things like clickbait, getting stuck in echo chambers, or be caught in emotional control. And what that basically means is that there's only so much information we can process. And if it's too much, we can fall into situations where we don't think logically, but we think with emotion, or we make decisions without thinking logically because of being overwhelmed with information. Now, let's look at some of the research trends that we have found so far in 2026 when it comes to the misuse of information. Now, looking at the article, Unraveling the Web, exploring the dynamics of online disinformation and its impact on democracy in Africa. It explains that disinformation has become a powerful political tool in many African countries, especially during elections. False or misleading information spreads quickly on social media and is often shared on purpose to influence how people view candidates, parties, and election results. Now, there's another example of what the trends we find today. This one is more serious. This is where information is used intentionally to mislead people, create fear, and incite people to violence. According to this report from Thomson Foundation 2026, this information has become a tool where different groups of people, they influence public opinion and they make tension stronger in a community or country. They spread false stories, propaganda, and hate speech, which spreads quickly on social media platforms. And what it does, it drives hostility and sometimes it encourages real world attacks and abuse on human rights. Okay, we have deepfake identity threats. Now, looking at the report from Cloudflare 2026, it highlights a new kind of cyber threat that's less about breaking the system and more about tricking people. Attackers are now creating AI-generated fake profiles that has photos, videos, and even voice recordings that can slip into company communication platforms and appear completely real, along with fake login credentials. And these deepfake personas, they can sometimes bypass security measures, even authentic, authentic, authentication that has more than one factors for you to get into. And some of these attacks were linked to nation states like North Korea with the aim to spy on companies or steal money by quietly embedding themselves in corporate workforces. Let's look at another one. Redlining, the technical mechanics of redlining. Now, this happens when the AI systems we use, they learn from past data that already contains social inequalities. Even if race is removed from data, the AI can still make biased decisions because it uses what we call proxy variables, that is, information that indirectly reveals race or income, such as zip codes, education level, shopping habits. These things can reveal certain things about the people. So, to put it in my own words, redlining is where AI systems are used to separate or categorize people for certain benefits. Now, what are the main challenges of misuse of information? Well, the speed of information propagation. Long et al. 2026 explained that misinformation spreads faster than accurate information online because of two main factors: algorithmic amplification and emotional salience. Now, this is where social media algorithms They often promote things that get strong reactions, such as anger, fear, or shock. So misleading posts or false posts are pushed more to users quickly and they spread rapidly and they can influence public opinion. They can create panic. They can promote divisions even before people can go and check to see if the information is accurate, all because of the speed of how information spreads. The other challenge is regulatory lags. Worley and Exam 2025 know that AI and data privacy regulations are still fragmented, inconsistent across different regions. For example, in the United States, there isn't one clear national law, so states have created their own rules, and many of these rules only respond to problems after they happen instead of preventing them in advance. So let's look at some ethical considerations. The right to obscurity. Now, Carl Pavok 2026, he was exploring the idea of whether people can truly erase themselves from AI systems. And while there are certain laws that let individuals request the deletion of personal data, AI complicates this because it doesn't store information like a traditional database. It learns from patterns, making simple deletion nearly impossible. So researchers are now experimenting with machine learning, ways to remove a person's influence from AI without retraining the whole system, but it's still far from perfect. The article was suggesting that we need a new approach, a right to unlearn, that respects people's control over their own personal data. And even with these safeguards, AI may still remember traces of our information. So the goal is to give people meaningful ways to reclaim privacy in this increasing digital world. Okay, so another ethical consideration. Now, Nicholas 2025 suggests that selling user behavior data to third parties raises serious ethical concerns because people's personal experiences are turned into a commodity without their full awareness or their meaningful permission or consent. It explains that in this system known as surveillance capitalism, companies collect data from users' online activities such as clicks, searches, and interactions. And then it processes that information with certain algorithms to create predictive models. And these predictions about people's behavior are then sold to third parties who use them to target advertising, influence our choices, and shape our behavior. And from an ethics point of view, this is problematic because people are treated not as users, but as products, if you think about it, meaning their behavior and personal information become a source for profit. The article highlights that people often believe digital services are free, but in reality, they pay by giving their information or their data. And companies, they pounce on that to gain financial benefit. So in summary, well, this presentation, it explored how information misuse has evolved into this fast-moving digital world. We look at the differences between misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation, and how each impacts individuals and society. We also look at the trends that make information spread faster and harder to control. And research, we learn from research that misuse has real world effects, influencing elections, fueling conflict, and enabling cyber threats. Challenges like cognitive overload, biases, and weak regulations make it harder to manage, showing how closely information misuse is tied to technology, politics, and daily life. So, in conclusion, addressing information misuse requires both stronger systems and more aware individuals. Through better laws, transparency, and digital literacy, we can reduce its impact and build a more trustworthy digital space, even if the problem cannot be fully eliminated. Thank you. This brings you to the end of my presentation, and these are my references.